So thinking about key themes for this year at FIX, I would say resiliency is quite close to the top of the list. And that is really being driven by the regulatory climate. And there's a lot of focus now on operational resiliency. We're into a 3-year transition period under some FCA and PRA rules. I think it's also fair to say European regulators are concerned with this. So you could interpret that as just broadly, how resilient are capital markets? I think the answer would be pretty resilient. Or more specifically about exchange outages and how do we stop outages and how do we ensure consistent trading and primary venues working as they should all of the time. So there's a lot of focus on that, and there's a very heavy regulatory overload for the companies involved in trying to meet this very high standard. In essence, no one wants any exchange or venue to ever go down. It's pretty hard to get there. So I think a big theme of today has been how do we get there and how can we use technology maybe to help. So I've just come off a panel talking about resiliency in exchanges, and my angle and Imandra's angle would be that we should learn from other industries. I think finance can be quite bad for taking inspiration from other industries, but outside of finance, with very critical and complex systems, it's quite common to do something called formal verification, which is to use mathematic techniques to formally verify, to kind of try and ensure that a system is designed perfectly and will always work as designed, not just most of the time. So we talked a little bit about that on the panel, and the ability to embrace and use AI and other technology that's really quite well established in defense or aeronautics and apply that to finance. Most bugs in systems that might cause an outage or problem occur at the design phase. So our angle is use AI to ensure that your design is correct, rigorous, mathematically precise. So how could we help an exchange group solve for that requirement for resiliency? I mean, I think it's fair to say there are no silver bullets, and we're not saying we've got one. But to give you an example, we're working with a major multinational exchange group right now on a migration project. And what we've helped them do is build a digital twin of the exchange in question, stuffed full of AIs. It's not just a digital twin, it's a smart digital twin. And they're using that, firstly, to help them migrate that exchange onto a new technology platform. Once that bit's done, they will use it to generate testing, simulation environments, and ultimately to squeeze out interesting, probably revenue generative data. So it's a great example of using a digital twin to do something really useful that solves for resiliency, regulatory pressures, and ultimately could be a really useful business tool. So you're right, there is a lot of chat about AI, and most of that chatter, I would say, is about generative AI, ChatGPT as an example. So the thing about that is stringing together a series of information that sounds incredibly convincing, but could be complete rubbish. We're at the opposite end, which is all about precision, logic, and rigor. And our AI is what's called symbolic reasoning. It's the ability to reason about the properties of a system, to double check, if you like, use an AI extra set of eyes to double check that this thing has been designed properly. And there's some really simple concepts. I could give you the example of transitivity. If I said to you, if A is always bigger than B, and B is always bigger than C, you could make some assumptions about the relationship between A and C. Now, that's just a simple mathematical technique, but when you scale that up, it gives you the ability to really deeply analyze the design of a system. So that's our branch of AI. We call it reasoning as a service because we've got a reasoning engine in the cloud, and we're offering that to customers. So Imandra's quite unusual, I would say, in this industry, in the sense that over half our business is outside finance, and we're working for the likes of NASA and the US Department of Defense. We're also into robotic operating systems and autonomous driving. You could broadly call all of that scenario analysis, and using the AI to reason about the properties of the algos or the systems that, for instance, run a robot or drive your own Tesla. Within finance, our customers are mainly those running venues or exchanges, ATSs in the States. We've got a lot of conversations going on with major tier one brokers about helping them solve technology problems. And we're also starting to talk to the buy side, because ultimately they have a best execution duty, and part of best execution might be having a deep understanding of how the systems that you interact with work.